sharing about it at your table.
Oh.
You can talk.
You can access to it.
You know.
No, Mom, it's not a either. He's really bad. He's bad.
No, we basically have the same math, so we work
So
together.
yes, we're working together. This is
We
wonderful.
went to the same school, so
The same elementary school, the same high school. Don't let they pour our down and fill in new one, but whatever. Okay, so then this is okay, and this is the school. This is here is our school.
I have access.
Where are you going? So this, we'll start there. Okay, right? Here we have library. Then over this way.
Oh, okay.
Then I came to Nepal.
Here's the old high school.
I don't, yeah. I mean, I literally, my elementary was up in my home, and then my high school, I moved when, and it was like miles away. Where did I play it? We played at school, and then played at home.
Okay, so this is, we're gonna say this is, okay, let's say this is 3 miles west of here.
So if the folks at your table are trying to, you know, you can talk about it at your table, share your different maps.
It's not much. You're good. Mine's like lines and X's, because that's not all I know. How far were you in class? Like, where was you?
5 houses.
PC, okay.
So we just lived, there was like 5 houses.
I know.
And this was my church right
All of these are those are classes. Sure.
So I went to the.
I went to, well, my elementary was Holy Name in Cleveland, and basically we lived here. You walked up 74th, you walked up another street, and then it was like at the top of the hill. You know, it was like a couple blocks. Then my high school, we moved to Relative, and it was like 2 miles to get like down to the one intersection, and then like another 2 miles up to where the high school was. So, you know, very different. They played the more, obviously Cleveland neighborhood. You know. Yeah. Well, no, it was Holy Name. It was a Catholic school I went to. And I went to a public high school, so yeah, in fact, we had moved, like my family, I was the oldest of 5, and we moved literally when I was between 8th and 10th grade, and my mom was like, well, because I had gotten into the high school, but you know, it was a case where I had to take the buses, so you know what I mean, so do I go to the public high school, or I worked out very fine, but it was just one of those, I want to convenience for school. Yeah, so exactly. I don't want to. Literally, you just played everything like wherever. Like the neighborhood was your playground. Oh yeah,
But we always just walked over there.
that was a class that day, so after school, it was just like where everybody hung out, you know what I mean? So, in high school, we didn't play with kids, just we hung out, like, Southeast, okay, yeah. Oh, man, okay.
We're just right around the corner, maybe a half an hour.
Is that where you grew up, or was that?
Yeah, no, I was
Okay.
born and raised there, but I actually lived in just back
Oh, okay. Well, yours, that's like,
Mine is very different than yours, I guess.
oh, yeah.
So, like, I was born and raised in Bhutan for my family up to my 13 years of age. So I am from very remote part of countryside. I had the house around there. It takes 1 to this from one neighbor to another neighbor. So we had some small trains that we just went on. So this is my way to go to school. I usually walk 2 hours to my school and my elementary school. So crossing lots of rivers. And then there's one school in the village which is like town school. So we go there and so I spent my first 20 years of my life here after I was a refugee. So I was in the country. I went to the so this is most of my life. 10 years ago I came to US. So I didn't have a formal education as such. I went to elementary school, went to middle school by the time I went to grade after. So I literally have my elementary without primary and secondary education. So I only got my official primary education when I was there. So all I speak today is what I learned when I was in elementary school. So thereafter I ended up reading refugee camp for 20 years. Within my 20 years of my life in I did what we call distant education learning, and I was able to do my middle school, high school, and then I taught in refugee camp for almost 30 years. I started teaching when I was 14 years old. It was kind of a compulsion to do that because there was no other way. So when I was teaching, I also did my undergrad in science. I went to India to get my bachelor's degree, then came back and continued teaching in camp. Then in between, I also did after that, I taught in university. So that's how my whole. That's why I feel I usually have like 3 clubs or 2. Our parents can afford it, That's hilarious.
Elementary school, and they were all kind of in kind of little cities all around the world. So I went to elementary school about and I started school with
when I was 15, I was in more big overalls and it was just such a
middle school. I did not so I was in another school here, and nobody Tracy Road, and high school.
It was, what is it, 3 towns that were one district? Is that what it is? Like something like that? Something like that?
we have a bunch of
Villages, right, okay. Okay, that's what I was.
very
All the ones that are around.
We have 9 houses in
Were your elementaries kind of like the neighborhood kind of thing? Okay, it was
But now ours we have bricks. My dad actually went out there every site that we all went to, and so we got all bricks. The elementary I went to, when he was in school, was a K-12 way.
right.
So he graduated my father. I was going to do
That's
we all had bricks.
Like World is doing, we're building now, we're building a brand new elementary. We have three elementaries that'll feed into one, later on that we just want. And that's what we're doing with people. I didn't go to the elementary, I only went to the high school, not to go to the nation science. But my girls all graduated from school. I was in their 20s, right? They're all like, school? It's like, you didn't like it because there was no air conditioning and everything else. But we were talking about the same thing.
My school was later on changed to army barricade because there was a civil war going on, so they started restoring all armies here. Not to protect the people in the place, but to want the people in the place. That's how there were so much operations. That's how I still have that vivid memory of my school, where once I went and I was all the army. I went back to my village after being vacated, which was not legal, but I actually had. I went to India and one of my friends, we actually walked to our village. It was kind of a different no houses were there, it was more like a defense, dead jungle, and this was the army.
All right, I'm going to draw our attention back. I'm sorry if I cut anybody short. Fun activity. So we learned about this from Jo Beth Allen in her book, Literacy in the Welcoming Schools. And this is a really fun way to sort of learn about culture, to learn about history, to learn about family. And we encourage sometimes, we'll do this activity with folks and say, this is something you could do in your classroom. It's something you could do in your school. Very easy way to learn about culture, to learn about family and history. And everybody has the place they grew up that they can share, and we get this great appreciation. How many of you drew mountains in your mountains were, I think David had mountains in his as well. How many of you drew city blocks? How many of you had the city blocks? How many of you had cornfields or something, right? Yeah. How many of you sort of drew a suburban neighborhood? Okay. How many of you drew a different country? We had Germany and
Nepal.
Nepal.
Actually, I did Nepal and Bhutan both. I have a very complicated story.
Zimbabwe. How fun. Yes. This is a great, a fun way to do that. And I share mine with you. I know I cheated. Sorry, I have a PowerPoint slide. So I grew up in New Jersey in an immigrant neighborhood. Each of these these are all city blocks with little houses on them. And my family, we were the third generation of my family to live in the same house. Yeah. And so I would walk there from Kirk Street to the red line was where I would walk to elementary school. There was no kitchen there, so during lunch you would walk home, get your lunch, and then you would walk back. And my mother would always say, "Don't dawdle, Barbara." And I know why, because there was a lot to distract a little girl all the way there back. And then I would walk to junior high through this park here. I tell folks this is where a lot of kids would smoke weed. So I had to be careful about which way. There were certain doors you'd go in and certain doors you wouldn't go in my school because that's where the kids were, doing whatever out back. So yeah, we did that. And in my one block, we had Swedish immigrants, German, English, a lot of Irish folks, the O'Connors, the O'Malleys, the O'Rourkes, and the Moody's were all on my block. My next door neighbor was from Latvia, and the other one was from Italy, first generation. Fun block. When I moved to the Midwest, we started talking about multiculturalism. I thought, what? That was my block. But anyway, we all shared food and shared festivals. And I don't know, it was just sort of the way things were. And I go back there now, and it's different immigrants living. It's fun to see the change. My mom died when I was a little girl, and she had two good friends who said, you know what, Barbara can still go home for lunch. She can walk to our house. So Mrs. Warner or Mrs. O'Connor were my lunch places. As I finished out elementary school, I could walk to their house, still get a homemade lunch, and go back to school. That was a sweet thing that our neighbors and friends did for me as a young girl. And of course, you know, the danger sign. You didn't go in the back door of the junior high. You didn't go home that way either. You know, you had to watch the park. So that was something going on. And I always share this book and say, why is Dr. Doolittle here? And I actually was talking to some librarians when I shared this slide last time. So when I was a little girl, you know, my mom had died, and I would go home because there were after-school programs. I was the latchkey kid, I guess is what they call them now. Right? You go home by yourself. And I loved to read. And the library was far away. You walk there too to get your books and bring them home. But I got a pink slip in the mail. I got home first. You know, Dad didn't get home till much later. He worked a couple of jobs. And I got that pink slip in the mail saying an overdue book. And as only a 9-year-old can, I reasoned, if there is no book, it can't be overdue. So I went out behind the garage and got a couple matches and burned up my Dr. Doolittle. I know. So what I like to say to folks is, so don't pick on that kid that doesn't bring their book back. Just send them another book. It wasn't because my dad didn't value education. It wasn't because I didn't love to read. It was because I couldn't figure out what to do. Yes, and my mom wasn't around, and I thought, I don't need to make my dad mad, right? So yeah, that poor book is no longer exists.
What did you do with the pink slip? You burned that?
I probably burned that too.
All the evidence.
All the evidence was gone in my little mind. I have no idea. But yeah, the things we do. And so when folks say, well, if I give them a book, they won't bring it back. I said, yeah, that's me. I was that kid. It wasn't because the dog ate it. It was because yeah, anyway. So anyway, our neighborhood maps tell us stories about one another. And it's a good way to do it. We wanted you to hear from one another and just appreciate the great history and culture and things that you bring with you when you come to school. So we like to have you. All right, so now we're going to jump to action here, and we may say that we're going to come back at a different time. We might extend this a little bit. And let's come back at 11:20. If you're here at 11, if we can start talking at 11:25, that would be great. So we're going to do some quick sort of looking at the framework together. We're going to break up into 5 small groups. We've got those labeled and ready to go, and I think we've got a tag. So all of our green stars are going one way, and all of our red stars are going another, and all of our blue stars another. Okay. So we have some group leaders that can lead you off to your rooms. If you will bring with you, you can bring your folder, but definitely bring your draft copy. It's on your name tag. Yeah, just look down at your name tag and you'll see if you're a silver star or blue star or a green star. So you're either red, blue, green, yellow, or silver. And let's start. John? Blue group. Dun-da-da. Head out from there. The green group, Meredith, is headed out to 1089. You stay right here. Don't go anywhere. Sarah Boney is taking you to 1042. If you're on a yellow star, you have a silver star. You're with Elizabeth. Silver, going to 1050. Follow Elizabeth, and if you're me, we're headed right over to our offices here. If you're with me.
Oh, he's going the wrong way. Are you yellow? Yeah. Okay.
Silver, you're with me.
Okay, we're going the same place.
Okay. Welcome back, everybody. How did that conversation go? Anybody have like an aha while you were kind of taking about tools or a good idea you want to share from your group? We're still waiting for lunch to get set up, so we have time to sort of share it out.
I'll share from my group. So in my group, we reviewed the community partners section on page 5, and we want everything. We want videos and apps, and we want handouts, and we want to share. We want training and PD. but a few things stood out for me from my group. Coalitions go a long way. So highlighting coalitions as we learn about them, as we know about them. So as you know about things, if we don't know about it, send them to Barb. She'll get it on her webpage. Because this webpage that they've put together can really be a nice repository where we can send people to, and they can find things that are relative to their needs. Fact sheets. If a district is working with a community partnership, we would like to know what they're doing and know how they're benefiting from one another, and create a fact sheet that we could then put on that webpage to show, here's an example of a specific community partnership that's benefiting the community and the school district. But on the same side, we can create a fact sheet that is very general to communities, organizations, and districts that say, here are the benefits for community organizations, here are the benefits for the district, and if you want further information, check out this example of Mentor School District, or whatever we have our stories that we're sharing. So I think that in our short amount of time that we had together, we had a lot of really good ideas, and the work doesn't stop today. We're going to keep on going. So thank you for that time.
Can you say just like 2 seconds more about coalitions, because I didn't quite understand that one.
Who in my group said coalitions go a long way? I wrote it down and underlined it. Jackie.
I gave the example that in North Royalton, we were awarded a national grant to partner with the community about, it wasn't the opioid, it was the drug, epidemic at the time that we were talking about. And one of the school took leadership of the grant, but one of the things where we were charged with bringing in stakeholders. And I think somebody in our group talked about the idea that, how do you reach out to churches or whatever, get them. And part of it is to reach out to the different sectors within your community. And you'd be amazed that, all of us are doing all that great work, and it's just a great way to come together and realize what we're, we have the same kind of a goal, but how do we use our own separate skills to get there? And I even mentioned, I don't think you have to be as formal as that one was. I think you can even form your own mini coalition around something. Did that help?
Somebody from my group, we had the communication section, and we had a lot of good ideas about communicating with families about communication and valuing that. So who wants to do it?
Yes, we did have a lot of ideas. I think for parents, using apps, the schools using apps. I know our school, we used Remind. Also, some of us talked about having paper, the kids bringing home things, giving the responsibility back to the kids to take things home. Using basically all our resources. Email, asking the parents what best way for them to stay connected and communicate through the schools. As far as teachers, giving them stickers was a big thing, so that they could use for elementary students with our information, so that the teachers could communicate with the parents, sending home the child with the sticker. What else was there? Administrators.
You sort of took stickers a step further. So what if the teachers had a way to value families in the way that they were communicating, like having a sticker sent home saying thanks for reaching out. So it has our website on it, more ideas about how to communicate, but it's sort of valuing that family. We also had an idea for things that might stick around a little bit longer than a sticker. So like a calendar with our logo, our website, but then it's just like the school's calendar. So if there are ways that we could provide local communities with ways to customize our things, but keep our logo, keep our website on there. Each audience, we gave you an opportunity to talk about how you message to different audiences, and I was amazed at how creative my group was just coming up with different targeted ways to approach. So for libraries, it might be working with the parent mentor in the local area. So if they already have a place where they put their parent mentor resources, and we put our resources in that same place so that it's associated with something the local community is already familiar with. So is there a way we can sort of add that this is sort of a partnership with parent mentors? So slightly customizing our tools, but making it more local so that parents are more comfortable using the resource. Other, Shara?
So one of the things, because we kind of had a whole thing that we had to focus on in our group, so we had a robust conversation about communication and two-way communication, and one of the points that was brought up was communicating with our diverse population, because I have a district of 100 languages, and some of which are not written, and so, and so how are we communicating? Because the example here had a robocall, but if the robocall goes out in English, which is what we're dealing with as a district as we speak, a lot of our families don't know. So they're telling you there's no school. Well, kids still show up to school because the families can't understand that there's no school. So we're trying to, as that came up, we did have a conversation about that piece.
You could use like icons. Like if your child is absent, if you don't have a way to represent it in a language, you could use like a meme, make an icon that represents like your child is absent. It's like an empty desk. I don't know.
Something symbolic. All right. What's the status of lunch? I don't know how much more time. Lunch, right?
Couple more minutes.
Couple more minutes, okay. Who else wants to share about something that the group talked about? One point back.
In area 2, support learning and future planning at home, there's a lot of comments, good feedback about the types of communication between staff in schools, teachers to parents, and we had a discussion about, it comes back to, I think, a philosophy. We talked about in middle school how there's less communication between teachers and parents because of this philosophy that you're supposed to build independence in your children. But I think that's a good goal, but they implement that by having less contact with families. I think you need to increase the contact with families, and parents need to be more involved in their children than they did when they're younger. But we tend to flip it. As kids become independent, parents become less involved. But it needs to be more involvement as you get older. So still having the shared goal of independence, but how you partner with families will tell us what kind of tools they need to be able to achieve that goal.
Do you think that should be the teacher's responsibility when school starts to send out an email to all parents, and then the teacher would know? The parents that respond are the ones that are going to be involved. The parents that email back and say, keep me abreast of things that my child's doing, those are the ones that are engaged. So they're going to have a kind of an understanding of who is and who isn't, but I don't know that, is it the parent that should reach out or the teacher that
Well, I
should
think
reach
it still
out?
comes back to the philosophy, but this philosophy is based on that families need to be engaged in their children. That's why we're here.
Exactly.
So the idea of that means that schools should be motivated by how do they involve, as they access the website, these resources, to involve families in my child's development and their education. So given that, what do I need to give my teachers so that they can involve their parents? So we took
Whatever
some
it
good
is,
ideas.
multiple means, right?
Right, there was some
Email
good
is not,
ideas about.
gonna be the only thing, so.
And then we might want to be careful about talking about the levels of engagement, because we've also had to define that.
Exactly.
And there are a lot of our ELO families, I'm just learning a lot, who feel like school is school and home is home, and we had to learn that they're very engaged at home, but they may not email or come to school at all. And so we had to kind of think differently.
Because we have to think about parents' past experiences with schools.
Yeah.
If they had a negative experience, and a teacher reaches out, they might not respond, but that doesn't mean that they're not doing everything that they can do to support their kids. In our district, we have a lot of grandparents taking care of their grandchildren, and they don't use technology. They don't have an email, they're not texting, so if the teacher sends an email out to everybody and they don't respond, it doesn't mean that they don't care, it's that they don't use that mode of communication.
I think the important thing to remember is that our goal is to engage families, not to decide which ones want to be back with us.
Right.
Not to leave them out.
Multi-generation. We're in that time multi-generational. If Gen Z is up here, and they're starting to become parents, and then we've got the silent generation, which is more the grandparents. So you've got the whole generation gap right now, and some like that paper, some like the email, some like the text, some like the app. So I think that's what schools are dealing with.
Right.
And
What I love about
Form though, that every school year you have to fill out that information form. Emergency contact. So on that, couldn't the schools just have a checkbox? What is the best form of communication for you? And have all those areas and let them decide.
Right.
Then the school would have that information. And then they could engage them in the way that's best for them.
we just had an emergency crisis at our school yesterday, and we got an email, a phone call, and a text.
Because sometimes if you check that box today, in a month, that might change. So you don't want to only focus on one way and then miss somebody.
I know Barb's loving this conversation. Like, it's not limiting, right? Like, we never want to say there's just going to be one way, so it's all good. And what I wrote in my group was that, like, we as a center and we as a network of people can equip schools and can equip families in different ways. So what we're hearing from you all, I think, is that there are things that we can do to build infrastructure in Ohio to give local communities and families those multiple options, ideas, best practices. And so whether it's stickers in early childhood, posters in the teacher's lounge that talk about the importance of communication, if it's 2-minute videos for families, it's got to be kind of all of those things. And I think it needs to be something that represents or can look representative, can feel local, even if it's created at the state level. So, thank you for all of your thoughts. Any other burning desires to share before we each stromboli and want to begin? Okay, well, I trust that your facilitators in your small groups took lots of notes, and we will debrief afterwards. And thank you again for riding this framework wave with us, and it's getting to the point where we're going to start packaging it for sharing in January. So thanks for the last set of eyes you have to put on it for a while. All right. Are you ready to shift gears with me? If you want to be eating your dessert or your coffee, that's great. So we wanted to dive a little deeper with you in the things that we are learning about what we're calling reframing the conversation. Last time we met, I think your booklet about it. And so this is, we are learning, as I was saying before, about how to talk about family engagement in ways that are compelling and so people will understand and understand the sense of urgency, I think as the Greens were saying before. And so I wanted to share with you some of the things we're learning so that to give you words as you're speaking with others, even your family. So what that says here is family engagement is more than caring. So how many times have you heard someone say, well, they just don't care. They must not care because they didn't return something, they weren't here, right? So they must not care, right? So we hear that. We also hear that educators who do a good job care. But we know it's a lot of skill. There's a lot of education. There's a lot of practice and excellence and that goes into being an excellent educator, not just caring. Right? So, but in our culture, we talk about caring. So we know that this is one of our things we want to be careful about, is probably avoid talking about care so much. And really, let's focus on what we do and other things. So here's some ideas of what to focus on. All right, so this idea of caring. So it's a big problem for advocates who are trying to gain support for well-structured family engagement programs and strategic policies that have potential to advance equity or opportunity for everyone in our system,
to ultimately close the achievement gap. There are resources that can help. So we get stuck in that, well, it happens if you care and it doesn't happen if you don't care. Well, then we're all kind of stuck. Right? How do you make somebody care? So let's talk about the things we can do. Why a rocket ship? Or what are you talking about? All right, this is what I'm talking about. I actually had an uncle who was one of the engineers who worked in Florida to build the building in which they built the space shuttle. So he was a civil engineer. It was interesting to hear all the stories about this giant machine and the giant buildings and roads and things that they built for it. But I think about all the other workers and roles that it takes to launch a rocket. Right? So they, not only the pilots sitting up front that we hear so much about, but we hear about the physicists who figured out how to launch and write the trajectories, the people who understand space and gravity, and scientists and the mathematicians, all of those people who work together at sort of mission control, right, to launch this rocket. And family engagement is a lot like that. In order to launch a child into their brightest future, we need communities. Grant was just telling me about some of the opportunities he's had in his community. Communities, families, our teachers, our lunch ladies, right? We need, and our principals, we all work together in order to launch our kids. It takes all of us together. That metaphor I just gave was tested against other metaphors. The group Reframing the Conversation, the Frameworks Institute, tested out other metaphors like building a house and cooking. They tested other metaphors, other ways of like, family engagement's like a symphony. Family engagement's like a, and this one was statistically significant beyond all the other ways, all the other metaphors. So we know that metaphors help us understand. So this metaphor, you'll hear us using it a lot, right? So this idea of launching, this idea of mission control, taking lots of people to make this happen. And you can also then build in other things. So here's an example. They're working against gravity and all the things that can hold them back. We can similarly speak to the gravity, the things that keep kids down, keep them from launching, the things that we are working against. What are other things that happen in a mission control that you might draw on if you were talking about this?
One inaccurate calculation.
Inaccurate calculations can throw things off, right? So we all need to sort of be on our game. Maybe everybody's work is important. What else?
Having a goal in mind, so you're not just launching off into anywhere, having
You're going
specific goals helps you to get really where you want to be.
That's true, just don't go away. Right, they're launching with purpose to somewhere. Yeah. The time it takes.
The time it takes, at the time we want to do it, because we're talking about educating a child, there is a time frame, because we are not focused for after 18 years. We are also focused from kindergarten to going to high school and like all these things.
It took a long time. There was a lot in the planning, the building. This was a sustained effort altogether. Yes. Yeah.
I was just going to say, it's all of the assessing and the testing and the research and all that goes into where you're going to launch and the time of where you're going to launch. So it's kind of the trial and error on what's going to work, what doesn't work, and just being really mindful and paying attention to the actual course that you're on for that individual.
Yes, for that individual. So we might want to go different places in different. Yes. And so where does this individual go? Yes.
Two things. I think one, there's a lot of trust involved. So every person who's involved in any way, as a group, you all have to trust that everyone's doing their job in the way it needs to be done, so we can all fit together. And number two, I tell my staff all the time, we inspect what we expect. So you're expecting things to be a certain way, but there also has to be the expectation that you're checking to make sure, because if we don't expect that and inspect what's happening, then I think we can lose the integrity of the overall progress.
Yes. These are great connections. Others, I think I saw Nikki in a second.
I would just say that everyone has a place, because you see the rocket, shoot up or whatever it does, but there are custodians that have to clean the facility. There are other people that are part. There are some hidden figures that you don't know are there, but everybody has a place to get this rocket where it needs to go.
Yes. this a metaphor you feel like you could use? Come on, maybe just a minute. Turn to the person next to you, and one of you take a turn saying this metaphor, talking about family different to the other person. Just a minute. So how do you feel? Can you use it? Can you say it? I'm interrupting. We're going to do, okay, keep practicing. All right, my family will tell you. We do this at the dinner show. I practice. I have to talk to, no. So I have a captive audience, yes. So do practice. Maybe you're writing something, maybe you're saying something. Talking to someone about why it's important for schools and families to work together. You know, it's like, okay, here we go. Next one I'd like you to try out. Another thing that we're learning is that we talk a lot about equity, and we understand that equity means that we all get the different supports we need, that if we're going to have equity in how we communicate to families, say our last conversation, we use different languages in different ways for different people, and they, right? Because we can't just shoot out a text to everybody. That would be equal, but it would not provide equity. Not everybody would be connected and communicated with if we were to do that. So, but the idea of equity is not widely understood by just a person on the street. Equity. So, let's talk about opportunity for all, because that is something, and this communications group, over the last 3 years, tested different messages. And what they found is we have different values in different spaces, but across our country, there's this valuing of everyone deserves an opportunity. Even if someone believes you can pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, that we all, we can all, really work hard and get where we want to go. I mean, there's a lot of different things, but a very common belief is that we all should have opportunity. So that's good language that we can use, that we want opportunity for all children, and that means really connecting with every child's family. And we want the opportunity for all families. So if we're talking with someone about how they are working with families, trying to sort of push past or do something a little more effective, we know families who maybe they're not going to understand because it's not in their language. We know someone needs it interpreted. We know that someone needs to hear this in a different way. Someone can't come to our event, right? We need to do it differently. But the reason why is because we want everyone to have the opportunity to have this information. We want all of our families to understand how to help their child negotiate leaving high school and going on into where they want to go, whether it's career, whether it's college, whether it's living on their own. We want them to do that. So we want opportunity to all. So, we would say we're committed to making sure every child and family has the opportunity, no matter who they are, and no matter where they live. That's why family engagement is so important, or that's why we want to do it in this way. Okay? So as you're talking about it, I hope it catch on to this idea of we want to talk about the opportunity for everyone. It seems to resonate with people, right? I know you know what resonates in your community. This is we are learning this since we were trying to speak to a whole state. Another thing they found, in particular in talking to practitioners, to school leaders, an important message was to say is that schools are not the sole owners of student learning, behavior, well-being, and future success, but there's this interdependence. That seemed to get lots of, yes, of course. Yes, of course. So in our school and in our community, we all rely on each other, and that's why working with families is so important. So it's a way of talking about the interconnectedness. We rely on one another. That's why it's important for us to work with families. We may be trying to address reading, or attendance, or graduation, or behavior, or bullying, pick the topic, but we can't do it alone. We all need to work on this together, and that's why we need to also include our families in this. So, interdependence, we all rely on one another. We want opportunity for all kids, and we want every family to have the opportunity. And boy, you know, working with families is like launching a rocket. It's like being mission control. So those are our 3 big takeaways. So will you spend another minute, maybe the other person in your buddy's box this time, pick either opportunity for all, or, you know, we all rely on one another, and that's why it's important for us to work together. And just try it out. Just say it to the person next to you. I'll give you a minute.
For me and my brother will look up for my brother has been listening because he has a lack of but I know the evidence, so I know how most of us because now it's my evidence is more suppose if you homeschool your child, if you are homeschooling your child, suppose like my social is so many. So like he feels more like
So you tried it on, you tried it out. Any thoughts on that? Reflections on trying to use these words? Opportunity for all. We rely on one another. It's like working together to launch a rocket. Thoughts on this? How did it go when you tried it out?
Went very well.
Went well.
Independence leading towards success.
Interdependence leading towards success. All right. Yes. Others? Anyone want to say how they said it? What they did? Do I get someone to try it out? Say what you said. Oh, Mary.
I mean, honestly, we talked about flushing glasses down the toilet, but it can happen.
It apparently can.
It apparently can happen. But what I like to think about is, if we're reframing the conversation, if you start with something like, say I'm talking to a friend about my job, and I say, most people think about family engagement as parent-teacher conferences. Well, not everybody can come to a parent-teacher conference. I'm a full-time working mom. I might have to miss some of those. So I would hope that the school that I'm working with would find other ways to equip me with the information I need to help my child. Because every family can support their child. So I want to know what I can do, even if I can't come to those events. So family engagement to me is, you know, working closely with the school, no matter what other barriers are going on in my life, to make sure I can be that advocate for my child, I can be there and understand what she's going through in school, and can help the teacher also to be a successful teacher for my child.
All right. Opportunity for all working parents to be informed. All right, so we put a little rocket on the bookmark. So, you know, you got one in your purse or your backpack or your, you know, maybe a little reminder for you. And if you'll see in the wording, so we are taking these words and incorporating them into our messaging. So you got a rocket at the top. All kids deserve the opportunity to succeed. So see how we incorporated all opportunity. And that happens when family, schools, and communities work together. So we've got we rely on one another, opportunity, and we got our rocket all on one bookmark. We're working hard at this. So hence we didn't just kind of throw good words on there. So anyway, and then connect with us. So we want to be a resource. So hopefully maybe this could be a little cue card for you in your pocket as you're speaking of this. Okay. rocket in your pocket.
No comment. So another thing that I do sometimes in my role as, you know, one of the messengers from our center is I find myself clicking on the transcript for our video on our website, because there's a link right below the video. And so I will download that like 3 times a day and be like, okay, there's benefits to family engagement for teachers. What are the things we say in our video? And so I will download the transcript, pull out what we said in that video, and use it all over the place. So if I'm figuring out how to message about a resource on our website, sometimes I will download that and be like, okay, there are benefits to families doing this for teachers. There are benefits to teachers doing this for families. So I'll just kind of borrow from that. So that's another sort of place you can cue into some of these lessons we're learning from the research. All right. Just drink a lot of sugar. If I start talking too fast, give me a high sign. So the next thing we're going to do is talk about the impact plan, which we started working on with you guys at COSI. We started talking about what are the goals for the council. Am I talking too fast?
No. Ask our blue group to come back.
Oh, yes. Okay, so the blue group is going to continue working in a small group session with Tom. So our prestigious group of high school students, if you will follow Tom, and they will share out about what they're doing later before we end the meeting. So excited to hear what they're coming up with. Thank you. Okay, so in your folder, you should all have an impact plan for the council. And we're going to talk through all the activities and goals today and just get some input from you about how it's looking. This is absolutely a draft. We obviously didn't get through sort of the whole time, the whole exercise in the last meeting. So I'm going to make sure that what we have here really reflects realistic goals for the council. And if you want to add other, sort of, how would we know if we're being successful ideas, we can do that along the way. Do you want to have somebody take notes on chart paper while we're talking, or Hadley can keep working on her tablet, or we can do both. So we have good notes and also just a visual as we're going. So our resources that go into the impact that we want to have as a council is we have these meetings. This is the bread and butter of, you know, when we get our work done. We have newly developed resources that are being added to the website. Not all of the resources are probably on the website, but there are continuous flow of newly developed resources that we can use at our disposal. We have council member and partner presentations that will be given at the council meeting. So you heard from O'Callaghan, that's a resource. Heard from the PTA, and we'll continue to have those kinds of presentations at meetings. So that's another resource that we can draw on to accomplish the goals of the council. You also have presentations from us about, you know, what is high impact family engagement, what's the research out there on it, what's the National Association doing. So all those presentations are a resource. We have our marketing gurus here that help us come up with tools and tangible things. And we also have all of our amazing partner resources. So we have the Ohio Department of Education well represented here. That's a great resource. We have O'Callaghan, PTA, Urban League, OSU Extension. Every single county has an extension educator. So we have enormous resources in this room, enormous networks to draw on. The first activity that I want to call attention to is that you all inform us of the concerns of families, students, and communities in the areas you represent. So there are a couple of goals associated with this, and I think I even wrote an extra one this morning while I was thinking. The first goal, which is sort of in the next column over, so there's activities and then there's goals associated with them, is that on average, members will attend and actively participate in at least 3 out of 4 meetings per year. Obviously, we want you guys, love you to have representation at every single meeting, but on average across the council, we'd like to see, this is our draft of this. So does that seem realistic? Does that seem reasonable for for council members? Other suggestions for how we could word that? We want these goals to be measurable, to be realistic, attainable. And members who miss meetings, because things happen, cars break down, kids get sick, all that happens, etc. So members who miss meetings will reach out, follow up on resources and information. So a lot of you will reach out and say, I'm not able to be at the meeting, we have things online, but if you want to have a conversation, if that's going to be more meaningful, touch base with us before or after the meeting, see what you're going to miss, see what handouts we may not have managed to put online that you can get. Those are all good things to do. Another goal under this is that obviously during meetings, this is the bulk of our time together, you'll share strengths and concerns of your community. Does that seem like a reasonable goal? Yes.
Would it be, I'm thinking of people who can't hear because they're coming from across the state, would you ever think about having a screen where people could be on like a Zoom or something where they could still actively participate but not physically hear?
Think about that, especially in the winter months. Like I think we have a January meeting, so we might have to make sure that happens.
We are live streaming, right?
And we do live stream. But it's not quite the same as. And maybe even bringing them into a small group with a computer screen. It's tricky, but it is doable, I think. I just wanted to mention that this goal right here is woven into a post-meeting survey item that our evaluators collect. So we're talking about it being measurable. There's an item that sort of gets at that post-meeting survey. Any other goals to set about you guys informing us? Any more specific goals than that?
Maybe the reaching out part is an area where like that liaison could.
Okay, so maybe the liaisons could reach out. Is that what you're saying? Or someone could reach out to a liaison?
Because I know you guys have always answered every single email that I've ever sent, but I also know that there's a lot of things that you guys have required to do. And so like if a family member had to miss, like maybe that's the time to
Sure. So maybe arranging for people to talk with a liaison after a meeting and this, just to kind of say, this is what the meeting went, this was good about the meeting, this, this is what they're really hoping will happen between the meetings. That would be a good suggestion. Yeah, thank you. Anything else for this one? Okay. It kind of goes with the idea of sharing stories as well. So that one we've broken out as a separate activity, but hopefully they're all kind of related. Okay. Another activity of the council, and these were pulled based on conversations we've had with you guys and also the terms of reference. So that was all sort of based on feedback from you guys and our thoughts about what we want the council to be. So developing new connections with other council members and partners. So we thought the goals could be at each meeting, members will talk to one another, make new connections, and the liaisons will help members to make connections with one another. It's not a very specific goal, but it is measurable. We have a end of meeting survey item about making connections with other council members, so it is measurable. How else would we have evidence that that's happening? How else might you personally know that you've made connections? How would you sort of measure that or know that that's happening?
Suggestions, if you're talking with someone and they do something in their community, and you take it back and use it, you can share your experience and how that worked for them. It's all about networking.
Yeah.
And helping each other, and so that would be a great way.
So how could we know that that was happening?
We would share that at the next meeting.
Okay. So a space to share what you're learning from one another?
Yeah.
Do we have a list of all the members and contact information?
It is
on
on our website for
with our
council members.
emails and.
Yeah. It's probably not the most updated because we've had just Cloud's new and a couple other well, we'll have a lot more new members next year, so we'll have to update it. But yes, there is a preliminary contact list on the website. Yep. So and we might even consider adding some sort of an item to that post-survey questionnaire about what you're learning from, like, have you learned from other council members?
A member blog.
Oh, okay. So this is related to something else we're doing right now. So we're just launching a district leaders virtual learning community, and part of the district leaders family engagement learning community is going to be a discussion board. So I don't know if that's something that we would want to replicate for the council. Okay. So.
Just spend 1 minute to describe that.
Okay, so if you're familiar, I don't know, my husband's on like a sports forum online, and you know, a lot of the same people go and comment all the time about the local sports in his community, and so he's on there and he's got a screen name and all that. So it would be a similar thing to that, and it's not necessarily like Facebook, because this one would have stable threads. So there would be like a best practices thread, and introduce yourself thread, and yeah, what are your major concerns right now thread, and what tools are needed kind of thread. So we could do something like that. We could have an early childhood thread, a middle and high school thread. We could arrange the threads around the framework and the 3 areas, so people could talk about best practices in each of those areas. Lots of high science going on, so this seems like a good idea, and that will help with this activity and also others that we have. So, great. I already feel like this activity is successful. So. Anything else? Next activity of the council is providing expertise and feedback on resources for the state of Ohio related to family engagement, including the framework. So goals around this are that during meeting activities, you would be sharing feedback, writing it down, handing it in, that kind of thing. Also, part of giving us feedback is participating in the evaluation work that we do, which you guys have all been very wonderful at filling out those post-meeting and end-of-year surveys. So what is a realistic goal for the percent completion rate we would get for that work? I just came up with one. So tell me what sounds reasonable.
I like the 80%. I feel like if we are committed to being members of this council, we need to participate in giving feedback in those evaluations. So I would hope for 100, but I think 80 is reasonable.
We also hope.
That could be our exit ticket.
Well, some people leave early, or you know, it's not. I don't think it's ever going to be quite 100%. All right. Any other way that we as a council would have evidence that we were getting lots of feedback on the resources?
Your notes. When we had, like for example, we just did the breakout activity earlier. So once we see some of those resources produced and out there, and it's communicated, and we hear about people using them, we might see some stories being shared, or then we might come back and do a touch base on, okay, these are the tools and things we talked about we wanted. Since then, we've created X, Y, Z. Now, what's our feedback about that? So some of it might just be your anecdotal evidence.
Okay. So meeting notes, anecdotal evidence, yeah, any sort of way you want to provide feedback, like for multiple meetings. So if you want to email us between meetings and say, I tried this resource, I wasn't quite sure if it was for me, and I am a family rep who has a middle schooler. So any of those, in the moment things you want to share with us can be an email, or you can wait till the next meeting. So we can add those to our sort of evidence that is happening. All right, next activity of the council is supporting awareness and understanding of family engagement in Ohio and communicating positively about the center and its work. So every time you talk about family engagement in Ohio, you don't have to talk about the center. I mean, obviously, it's good when you talk about the center, but sometimes you're just gonna be sort of being that supportive person talking about family engagement. Tracy Hill's not gonna talk about the center in every single sentence at her job, right?
Yes, I will. I've already placed it on our resource website.
Oh, good. So, goals around this. How would we know if this was going well? How would we have evidence that this was happening? One idea is that between every meeting, each member will distribute information about the center or resources, or have conversations, present about family engagement. We could measure that in a variety of ways, and we can unpack that. So, what are some goals that you have as council members for supporting awareness and understanding of family engagement in Ohio? Elaine?
Jack and I were talking, Columbus has a elementary, middle school, and high school fair every year. It's well attended by parents, staff, and everything. And they already have computers set up there for school choice. So we thought maybe we could have computers set up where people could explore the website, we can talk about it, give out some materials, something like that.
Other ideas for how you as council members could support the messages of the center and family engagement?
I think just providing this information literature and in touch with the superintendent of one school and the principal of another. It happened to be the day that email came out with the press release. So I was able to forward that to them, and now I can give them this information. And one of the schools have already been thinking about this, and they said it's still a secret. They couldn't share with me yet how they're going to get families involved, but it sounds like it's a secret. It's encouraging.
One way that will support this is our newsletter that we are gonna start publishing.
Yes,
ODE, yes.
Yes, ODE has a family unit listserv. You go on the main page, you click all the way down to the bottom, it says listservs. There's a big long list of all the possible news updates that you can get from the department. Family and community engagement is one. We are working to start a monthly newsletter, with just different updates happening around ODE, happening around the state. And we just connected on the idea about the blog, maybe reaching out to some of you guys to highlight some great things that you're doing in your districts and your schools to feature you all, because we do.
Goosebumps,
We wanna
yeah.
highlight this council in our newsletter. And so,
Yes, and I imagine that that newsletter will be a somewhat collaborative effort between the center and ODE.
One of the ways that we will, I have all these tablets, because we have family ambassadors right now in about 61 or so of our schools. The goal is to have one in all of our schools, but we have monthly professional development meetings with them, so we are gonna make sure they have the pamphlet, talk about it, and then maybe get them on the Chromebook so that they can get on the website. And be able to share that to the other here.
And then pass it back to you.
Yeah. So I actually have a resource page for our schools on our website with some online learning opportunities, and then websites, and yours is on there as well as some others. I think the other thing that we can do is I have a pretty good Twitter following that every time there's some family engagement programs or activities, or we can always hashtag the center or at the center and making a reference to the work that we're doing here. And then I think I actually am going to be speaking at the Principals Leadership Institute next week. So can I get some brochures in these? Because I'd like to make them aware too. But I think also in our district there's a newsletter that's done monthly for principals, and I have a family engagement corner in that. So making sure that I put the website in there. And then we also have one for our teachers, our curriculum newsletter, and putting it in that one as well, just to increase their awareness about it. But I've also shared it with my staff. So it's just getting the word out and increasing awareness and using all those different modes of communication that are available to us.
So if we have questions, like the bookmarks, if you would find a new school, what languages should we have them translated in? You want us, we could ask you, like, could send those to us?
I think we are here from different capacity. Like I come as a family.
Yes.
We are from organization, from like government office. We don't have equal resources for them to advertise or to publicize what we do. Maybe discussing. We are hosting a family engagement training session for our community members on November, December, January. It's a 10-week-long session. So maybe talking about it time and again to the group that are coming. We're having the same group of parents coming. We're running 2 different sessions at 2 different locations. So we are not only focused to Nepali speakers, but we are focused to new American families. So maybe having those resources on the spot when we do post training, I'll reach out for more of these families so we can share to them. That's one. The other one is we all have our different ways in our organization that we work, how information is being shared, so we can post those things there. That would be very good. And I usually talk with my friends, if like we have 45 around people here, if we have 2 or 3 friends that we talk to, that this is the training that I've been attending, this is our advisory council, then maybe we'll have some more people in our table coming together that will share more information and people get advantage of that.
I'm sitting here thinking, for some of you in the room, and I don't mean to speak for anybody, but this might seem a little bit intimidating. So I myself went to my public library in my city the other day, and I found it difficult to get anywhere. I mean, I was like given an email address, and I reached out, and they were like, oh, we'll meet with you in December. So don't feel, it might take multiple tries to sort of find a good place to talk about the center or to find the right person, but I just would encourage you to persist. And I'm going to keep persisting with my public library. So if I can't do it, then why would I expect other people to be able to do it? So I don't mean to be a downer, but keep reaching out to various audiences to find who's going to, be receptive and welcoming, and keep pushing the conversation, because it is an important one to help shift in your community. So I want to hear from other people.
Have you tried ABC or 10 TV?
Oh, news, yeah. So one idea we're flirting with the idea of doing is in the spring when we bring the Frameworks Institute to Ohio and have a big have a big party about family engagement, talk about messing it, is to invite some news organizations to that. So we haven't worked out the details, but that would be a good place because it's all about how to communicate and how to have the most impact. So it seemed like it would be a good time to do that, if not before.
I mean, one way that you can kind of help share the message of this is if you're in part of like any kind of state associations. Like next week is the Ohio Head Start Association meeting, our quarterly meeting. So I'm going to share all of the information that I've gotten here on the website with basically the association will be distributed to all the programs in the state. So that'll help, put these resources out there. Because I've been using them, I've given it to given the website to all of my staff to deal with family engagement, and there's been resources on there that have been helpful to them, so I think that'll help throughout the state. So
then Meredith, do we report back to you so you can collect that information?
So, this is a good segue, I think. Well, hold that thought. The next activity after this is to have you guys write down a plan about how you're going to share between now and January. So all the things you just said will be written on those plans. So we will take a picture of each plan, and then we will check back in with you in January. And also, and let me know what you think about this. We were thinking of having each of you partner, find someone else in the room that you'll touch base with before January and talk about how you're sharing about the center, how it's going, what's going well, what's a challenge, get ideas from one another about how it could be done differently. Come on.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Killing.
Doesn't everybody like Brazilian music?
I do.
I'm sorry. It turned itself on, I think.
It's okay.
It must have said something to
We're all family here now. We can rib each other a little bit. So, does that sound like a reasonable goal to connect with somebody between now and the next meeting to share about how it's going, what's going well, what's not going well? Anybody not like that idea? 0 hands.
If you're just your parent, you have perhaps
in your child's school, is that what you're saying?
Yep.
So, yeah, let us know if you need more, we can sort of arrange to send them to you. Yeah.
Or take them today.
Take them today. All right, the next activity of the council is to develop and test resources for families, schools, and organizations. So, again, these are just example goals. So members will create or review 3+ resources for family engagement in academic subject areas. And I was thinking this would be per year. I'd rather add that.
And we would do that next year.
Yes, so we could do these things so we could break up into small groups, and each group picks a resource on the website and reviews it and says, how could we write about this in a better way, in a way that's more accessible, in a way that will pique people's interest, where can we share about this? So we can do, if we broke up into enough groups to accomplish the 3+, is the 3+ reasonable? If we did 3 resources in academic subject areas, 3 resources for mental health and trauma, and then we're also going to ask for, sorry, I'm skipping ahead. Where's the, 3+ family stories and 3+ school community stories. So if you add that all up, that's 12 basically resources/stories per year. Some of this would be forwarding something that's already been done. So it could be, I know there are several people that have forwarded us school and community stories about family engagement. So those we would count towards our total, and that's a fairly low lift thing to do. Sorry, skipping around.
I have a question about that one. So create or review 3+ resources. What, can you tell me a little more about that? Because I've been interested in working with our curriculum team, who seems to feel that their engagement is a little bit separate than content. And so I would be interested in ways that we can share that information with them. So a little more about that.
Sure. So one of the resources that we have on our website is, I'll just pick Partnerships for Literacy, and that is a program that schools can implement to support their goals around literacy. And so you all could sit down in small groups. One of the groups could be looking at our Partnerships for Literacy on our website, how it's written about, who it's written to, and try and figure out, are we messaging about it well? You could look at the resources themselves and say, could these be improved upon for more schools to really take advantage of it? Do we need to connect it better to a funding source? So you could think about how to message about it to schools in different ways so that schools are more likely to grab on and say, this is something we can do. So that's an example for an academic content area of a resource we already have that could be better. So what about is this goal reasonable? Is it feasible? Does it make sense? I had 5, I changed it to 3. I don't know. I'm just making it up. Like, let me know what you think. More, higher, lower?
That's good.
I think that it's try this.
I put plus because 3 didn't sound like that many, so it's like, well, we can aim higher. Okay. And so this resource testing can happen outside of meetings as well. So if if somebody gives you feedback and you just forward us, person A was working in this school, said it was great, wished there was X, Y, Z. Perfect, easy. We'll add it to the list of all the amazing things you guys do for us. Okay, and then the stories, I believe Barb's been talking to a few of you about this already. We have a sign-up sheet that, somewhere, here we go. So at the upcoming 4 meetings next year, we would love to be able to have members of the council share their story, share something that's going on in their life, something that went on a long time ago but still really impactful to their family engagement experience. Love to, if it's 5 minutes, if it's 2 minutes. We've been trying to model what it looks like to share about family engagement in our own lives by putting our stories on the website. So there's a picture of my daughter on the website now. There's a picture of Bess. She's helping Kristen check people in. her story is on there now, her and her son Hunter. Another mom in our building also wrote one about moving her daughter around to different schools and what that looked like. So we were basically getting some, we don't know how to do this, back from people when we ask for stories. So we're putting some out there, so if you can look at those and say, okay, this is what it would look like to get up in front of the council and talk for 3 minutes about my story. So if that's something that you're comfortable doing, please sign up before you leave for one of the next 4 meetings. And if you're an organization rep, you can just talk about your organization, the resources you provide for families, resources you'd like to be providing in the future with input from the council. So I think there's options about what that time and space looks like for council members to present. All right, thoughts about how we would have evidence of this success? Is this good or do we need more?
Good.
Okay. I mean, so my thought was it could be more specific. We could have more specific goals in the future. These don't have to be hard and fast. This is just a draft. So it could be, we decide 1 year of the council that we want our stories to focus on a particular issue, like attendance, family engagement and attendance. So I think we could be more specific. These can evolve over time. We can pick focus areas, but it sounds like this is a good start. There. Okay, so I know we've been showing our bookmarks a lot today, but we just wanted to sort of get in one place all the different potential tools you could use as you craft your plan. So we have bookmarks, brochures, website. We're going to have this framework launching in January. We now have a Facebook page. We have Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I would like to break into WhatsApp and WeChat and other social media apps and things that different communities in the state use. So I know like the Korean community uses something else than Facebook, and not everybody, but I'm generalizing a little bit. But there are other apps that we could break out into and may have a larger reach with different or targeted communities. So if you have ideas about that, like the social media that your community uses, or the forum, the discussion board that your community uses, there where we could sort of infiltrate, lack of a better word. Next door, the next door neighbor, next door. So all kinds of ideas. But right now we have sort of a limited setting. You could design your own postcard. We can come to your area and present with you. So I believe Juma has talked to Barb about working together on his trainings that he's doing. Barb travels a lot around the state to sit down with our regional coaches to co-present with them about family engagement. So you're not alone, you're here. Are there other ideas for tools that we really need to be developing so that you can go back and do your job well?
PowerPoint that we could present.
PowerPoint? Okay.
Folder like this with the information that we could just scan to the superintendent.
Okay.
Have a little bit of
So more folders with some basic information.
basic information with like, a bookmark and that, but the framework, like the draft that we came up with.
I think you're right, especially for those of us that are coming to a district authority who are parent, it's nice to have something tangible that makes us appear a little bit more legitimate.
Right.
Than if the parent showed up in their office talking about who knows what this time,
Right.
Something legitimate to say, I actually know what I'm talking about.
Folder.
I didn't make it up.
Yeah.
And it has the OD superintendent's
Yeah.
stamp on it.
See, I didn't do this. This is real.
Oh, I like what you just said. Tracy. That was good.
It's a stamp of approval from our superintendent, state superintendent.
Yeah, when we think about that PowerPoint, can we pause on PowerPoint for just a minute?
Pause.
Pause on
Not gonna click.
PowerPoint. So we put together a slide deck for you, and we would love, and thinking about this design your own postcard, maybe we could work together, you put your school name on it, and we do some messaging and whatever, Because sometimes your school wants a little opening right there to put their, where the Wildcats kind of thing But talk to us about a PowerPoint deck. So if we gave you a slide deck, because I know not everybody's going to have need of a PowerPoint slide deck, what would you want on that? What, information about us, what the center is, what the council is?
Like
The
a
website.
simplified version of kind of what you have on the website.
Website,
You
okay.
know, about us,
Okay.
and who we are, what we do, yeah. Like a brochure. Yeah. Right.
About us, and then about the council, so that the
Yeah.
center, maybe, and then
The council.
council.
And the members and everything.
Sounds like
Okay.
some kind of endorsement from the State
The
Department
state
of Education
Yeah.
about the importance of
Some kind of what.
the advisory council.
Yeah, but who, what, when, where, and why?
That picture, guys, dressed up like astronauts.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Standing next to a rocket.
You just branded the whole thing, you didn't even know it?
Yeah.
There we go.
We have to go to
Does
Florida.
that mean I'm gonna have color hair? You can get your costume.
Yeah.
Maybe like in a call to action slide about here
Yeah.
are things that you can now do next. Especially if there's a few like
Yeah.
bullet points that they can use to talk about it.
And this would be for like teachers, superintendents.
No, I'm wondering, we could have a different call to action for teachers
Right.
than we would maybe for superintendents or principals.
And parents.
There's another one below. That's sticky.
Okay, all right, we're on a roll. Well, we're just generating great thoughts here. So we had,
What about once the framework is finalized, it could have the basics about the framework of the 3 areas?
This is getting to be a long.
I know, but you could do it in 10 slides. You probably could.
well, I think if we make it a slide deck,
Whichever.
we'll put our little logo on the top of those and then you can.
95% of these slides we probably already have.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
present about ourselves
Yeah.
a lot.
Well, I think you have to keep it short and simple and, to the point. It can't be like 40 slides, probably maybe 10.
Well, we created a framework that's really 5 pages of content, so
You might be able to just take, I'm gonna do these 3 slides,
Right.
like we wouldn't have to.
Exactly.
We'll give you some stuff.
all right.
Good enough? We can get started on that.
Okay. So, your plan is a handout that you have in your folder. Should be the last handout of the day, I think. You guys have basically, for a lot of you, you've already said out loud what some of your plans are. So, we would love to have those represented on paper. So in the next few minutes, this is just a brief guide. Identify 1 or 2 people, places, or events to share about family engagement between now and January. Write down details, how you want that to go, like how many people might be there, how many copies you might need of things, what you'll need to do to make sure that you're successful in getting that done before January, and thinking about what tools, that's the bottom part of that, is what tools will you need to be successful. How do you want to do the check-in with another? We do it music.
Oh, sure, yes.
Our idea is that we would play music. You'd all be mingling around a little bit, and then when the music stops, the person who's closest to you, exchange contact information with. That way we can mix things up a bit and maybe talk to someone who you don't normally talk to at the council. You can also check in with other people. But this would just be an effort to sort of get you talking to more people.
So, first plan.
Yes, first your plan. So take a few minutes. We can be mingling around, answering questions as you go.
So to wrap up, we want to do just a couple things. We have our end of meeting survey, and instead of doing it via paper, we have a survey monkey. If you're on your phone and you want to do it on your phone, or your device, you could go to the page for today's meeting on here. You can log in as council member, and the link is there. So if you go to our website, go to About Us, click on our State Advisory Council, and log in as council member. And all the handouts for today's meeting and other information is there. The recording link will be there. But this survey link is there. Or you can just type this surveymonkey.com and all of those other State Advisory Council meeting feedback is the end of it.
I don't have all the handouts up there. I have the agenda for today and the year-end reports, but after the meeting today, I'll add in the rest of the handouts, now that they're all clear. That'd be fine. Sure.
Okay. Appreciate you doing that. Now, if you're leaving here today and you thought, boy, if I had this many of those little bookmarks or this many of those brochures, I would do such and such with them, and you'd like to leave with them, Kristen has our supply back there. So please, and if we don't have enough for you today, then we'll make more. You want to make sure you have those.
Is it possible to get more of these brochures as well?
Yes, she has those there. And maybe,
I put a stack up here too.
and there's a stack up here. I think we had stacks everywhere, so we'll make sure that. I'll give you a moment to answer that. So I think maybe we can kind of close. And as you're finishing the survey and as you're finishing your plan, you leave those with us. Or, pardon me?
Is it on the website?
Oh, in the meeting, I see it, it's after there.
Okay, thank you.
It's under today's date.
Today's
everything under today's. Where's our sign-up sheet for the Share Your Story? Oh, wonderful. Look at all you guys sign up. I'm so excited.
It's our exit ticket, you should say, okay, you have to show me that you finished.
Okay, before you leave, show me your plan, and I'm gonna take a picture of all of them on my phone. That way you can keep them, and I will have them. So just as you're on your way out, I'll be right here. Are you looking for
So goodbye and thank you. We'll let you go as you're ready to go. I appreciate it.
Family rep, okay. No, it's fine, I just didn't know if there was something. Thank you so much, lady, and I knew. If you're representing me, no.